Hello, people. Yep, you guessed it. We're talking about another 1911 handgun. This pistol came to me while working at a gun shop. This is a Colt Mark IV Series 70, government model in 45, of course. Gentleman walked through the door and handed this to me and said, I want a new barrel installed, a new barrel bushing, adjustable sights with interchangeable rear blades, and a beaver tail grip safety, and new grips. So, being the salesman that I was, I should have said, okay, and taken his money, but I didn't. I looked back at him and asked, why? Why do you want to do that work? Well, he wanted the interchangeable blades. He thought he needed a new barrel because this is old. And he wanted a new grip safety because these are uncomfortable by large. And he wanted a beaver tail, something more consistent with a modern target gun. And the grips are just a little too fat for him in places. And I agree, I don't really like these grips either, but I recognize this right away as being something he didn't. He didn't recognize what this was. Although he kind of understood a little bit of the history of the gun. So I explained the history to him. I recognized first the rear sight. This is a Smith & Wesson adjustable sight from a revolver. And of course this offers the shooter elevation and windage, but back in the 70s, early 70s, there wasn't a lot of options. And the options that were available were expensive. So taking a used pair of Smith & Wesson sights and modifying a slide to fit was, simple if you had a mill. But it was the quality of the work. It was how well everything was done that really clued me in as to who built this gun. So I explained it to him. And after explaining the full history and being completely honest with him, he decided that he didn't want to modify this gun anymore, but he didn't want it. And so I offered to buy it from him. I paid $1,500 for this old, cut-up, customized Colt. Now, some of you may think, well, that was probably excessive. And some of you may be seeing the indicators that I'm seeing as well. Maybe not. Let's just bust it open and I'll show you how I know. So after countless nights, every Wednesday and Saturday, sitting on a range, shooting, drinking, talking, we had a lot of conversations about this gun. When Bill Wilson first started modifying 1911 handguns, he first bought a small lot of Colt Series 70s and modified them for his friends in IPSC. This is before Wilson Combat. This is before Wilson's gun shop. He was just gunsmithing out of Wilson's jewelry. And this is one of a few of those first handguns that Bill ever built. And I know that not only because of that marking, but because of what Bill said directly. He's never installed Smith & Wesson revolver sights on a 1911 slide other than the very first small batch of 1911 handguns that he customized for his friends. So that's how we know that, because of that marking right there. I've actually seen the die. There's 3 size dies that Bill had made to punch on the disconnector rail, which is where he put a lot of his first markings. And this was the shortest in height, the character height. And the last one, the character height matched the full width of the disconnector rail itself. So that's another indicator that this is the first one, is because it's the smallest one. But it's these sights, it's this rear sight that really says that this is part of that first batch. Now that had to have been in, let's say, 1973 or maybe 1974. Wilson's gun shop officially went into business in 1974, so it's really hard to say exactly. I don't know that Bill can even nail down a specific date. But regardless, when we look at the serial number on this gun, let's get the... so that's why you gotta make sure your link is always pushed forward. Before you put your frame back on. This is really hard to do through a camera. I can't see the gun. I've got to look through my camera to see what's going on. There it is. So this gun was new when Bill purchased it, and that had to be in the early to mid 70s. Did you notice this has that ramp? Cut into the slide stop, just like my long slide we talked about. See how easy that is? So if this was in the 70s, if this was purchased new by Bill in the 70s, where does that put this serial number? Well, it puts it somewhere in the early 80s. So now you're asking, well, how can that be? Well, it's really simple, in fact. The individual Bill sold this pistol to was a fellow IPSC and eventually IDPA shooter that has now passed away. And in the roughly 10 years that that gentleman had this gun and shot it in competition, he shot so many rounds through it that he literally wore out the frame. He cracked the frame. I'm not sure exactly where, but in the 80s, this gun went back to Wilson Combat. And Bill, because this was one of Bill's guns, regardless of when he built it or who he built it for, he honored that customer service. He honored that lifetime warranty, because that's what a lifetime warranty is. That's what it is to Bill. That's what it is to the company. So this pistol got a brand new frame. But in the effort to save money, of course, they didn't scrap anything else. They used literally everything else from this gun because nothing else was so worn out that it was bad or broken. It just needed a new frame. And so that's what it got. It got a brand new frame in the early 80s, went back to that individual, and after he passed away, One of his fellow shooters in his shooting club here in Ohio purchased it from the family, purchased it from the estate. And then walked in our door and asked me to cut it up, which I simply could not do. And I am not a rich man by any stretch of the imagination. But I pulled $1,500 together and gave it to that gentleman because, in my opinion, this pistol is worth a whole lot more than just $1,500. And if you understand the history I've just explained, then you'll see that. This is truly a classic, custom, early 70s competition 1911 that consequently started the custom market. There were custom guns before Wilson Combat, but none of them matched up to the standards of Bill Wilson. This gun was made with the attempt to increase those standards. And I'll argue today, anybody in the game building a custom 1911 has not only heard of Wilson Combat, but has some history with the company. Bill Wilson and the company Wilson Combat single-handedly influenced the custom firearms market into what we know it to be today. Thank you for watching, people. Make it a great day.